a time as a New York police officer and detective, in a particular period of time when we had work to do with U.S. Capitol Police, with crime in D.C., in this hearing on foreign interference and election law. You've been a spectacular member of this committee. And your time here will not be unnoticed as we look at the history of this committee. But just want to thank you for all your hard work on this committee and your time in Congress. And now I will recognize Mr. D'Esposito for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's been an absolute honor to serve on this committee with all of you, and I hope my time on this dais is not over. Before I continue, I'd like to submit for the record a letter from People United for Privacy in support of H.R. 8399, which is the Donor Privacy Protections in Foreign Influence Act, which is a piece of legislation by Chairman Stile.
Without objection.
Thank you. Mr. Bowman, in your opening statement, I think that you said some things that are critically important. And I think that very often we have these hearings and they are talked about on Capitol Hill and in our offices. But this is a hearing that I hope the American people are listening to at home, in their living rooms, around their kitchen table, because it is that critically important. You mentioned in your opening statements the idea that this country is already under attack. You mentioned countries like China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. I mean, these are our biggest adversaries. These are our greatest threat to our homeland. And there is no question that we are under attack. There is no question that we are already at war. And I think that a lot of the things that we talked about this morning are very important. But I think what I want to focus on is how this affects the people back home. Because very often people say, well, it's not happening in my backyard, it's not happening in my county, my vote is the one that counts. And you know, we've heard when President Trump has said that we are under attack, when President Trump has said that there is foreign influence in our elections, we've been told very often by the other side of the aisle that that's not really the case. Can you talk to us about specific evidence and tactics? And I know that there was a hoax that was mentioned, but I'm sure you have many more. I want us to deliver to our neighbors back home exactly how their vote is threatened by these adversaries like China, Russia, and Iran.
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. And you know, this will start vague, but I'll try to be more specific. I think we need to fully appreciate that our adversaries understand the battlefield of beliefs and ideas, right? Because China, Russia, and Iran in particular, and also North Korea, they have a problem with us, I'd say, because of our existence and our power. And by existence, I mean our representative democracy presents a threat to autocrats who want to retain their self-serving grip on power. And it conveys to the Russian, Chinese, and Iranian people that there's a more appealing governance model. So just by being ourselves, our small d democratic selves, we threaten their autocratic grip on power. And our power, the fact that we have the most capable military in the history of the world, presents a problem for aggressors like China, Russia, and Iran who want to conquer our partners. So if they can deceive Americans into saying that we have no principles of interest in standing with Taiwan, Ukraine, or Israel, they can sideline our American power, and they want to decide who represents us in Washington. They want to decide what our policies. I say they should butt out and that Americans should decide, and the first step to having them butt out is realizing that they are trying to manipulate what Americans think and determine who represents us in Washington and what our policies be, and that's wrong, and we need to wake up to it.
And based on evidence and the investigations that you have done, is there one party that has been more influenced by foreign adversaries in our elections than the other?
You know, I'm not prepared to answer that. I want to emphasize that both parties have been attacked. And honestly, I don't think we're going to come up with durable solutions that will last, that will be effective if it's not a bipartisan approach. So I really think we should not make this a partisan issue.
Mr. O'Neill, thank you for your service. You mentioned in your opening statement the need for collaboration amongst public and the private sector. And obviously, as members of law enforcement, we know that that collaboration works within law enforcement entities as well. Does the FBI work alongside the FEC in investigating foreign entities or adversaries that influence United States elections?
Honestly, I don't know, because that wasn't an area of focus for the Secret Service. We were focused specifically on financial crimes.
Okay. All right. With that, I only have about 30 seconds. Can you just briefly talk about how we see the illicit and illegal money moved through these online platforms?
So money mules are, as Mr. Bowman talked about, is the center of gravity that enables cybercrime and money laundering to flourish. So whether it's a witting or unwitting money mule, they are primarily how the bad actors are moving money throughout, whether it's financial crimes or whether it's any sort of illicit malign activity. It starts with money mules, and also understanding the weaknesses in our current AML regime and focusing on platforms that don't meaningfully do any know your customer activities.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Chairman, once again, it's been an absolute honor. I yield back.
It's an honor to have you here. The gentleman yields back. Ms. Lee is recognized.